Welcome to Check Engine Lights Anonymous, the only podcast support group for the automotive RBs, car calamities, industry insights, track day excuses, and venting about what keeps our check engine lights on. I'm Lee Taylor. I'm most likely to be most definitely attracted to a topless Mini. Joining me is Olly Anthony, who has recently hopefully converted to see the light of EVs, thanks to yours truly. And hiding behind the screen, pressing all the buttons, and always making us look and sound good is our favorite Renault Sport fan, Borka, who's also our producer. Sir, how you going, Ali? I hear it's quite wet and busy.
It is, yeah, and I'm just thinking about how hard of a job Borgo's got to make me look good. So that's one thing for sure. So yeah, no, doing pretty good. I think we've done a heap of filming recently, which has been quite exciting, hasn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of work with the Kias, which we'll talk about shortly, and yeah, eyes have been somewhat opened by the EV revolution, I guess. So it's finally for me, it's been a revolution, which is driving the Kia EV5. Um, yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been really good. I think for day to day, if we're jumping straight in, like that was
It's a cool
yeah, it
car.
was pretty,
Yeah.
it was pretty interesting, eye opening for sure. Pretty eye
Yeah,
opening.
because for those at home, we had two cars in Brazil, I guess last week or week before. And so last podcast, we were about to film everything. We had picked up the cars, and now we have filmed everything, given the cars back. So we had the full experience. And so for the first half of the week, we purposely didn't give Ollie the EV5 because he was so like, EVs, boo. And so he had the Sportage and the sore elbow for what, 3 or 4 days.
Do you know what? I've actually forgotten about that. Yeah.
Oh no, right up. And then on filming day, you got to drive the EV5 for the first time, like properly. And then you had it all weekend. So yeah, what was your take after actually spending some time in the mid SUV? You drive a mid SUV day to day, your X Trail, and then having the EV5 for like the last 4 or 5 days.
Oh, look, around town and day to day, it kind of just makes sense. There
Mm,
was, look, I hadn't, maybe this goes away over time. The thing I could not get over though in the time I had the car was there's just always in the back of my mind, how much charge have we got? How much charge have we got? How much charge have we got? And I think a lot of that is driven by not having the fast charger at home or the 7 kilowatt charger at my house because I plugged the thing in and it was on charge all day and it gets like less than 10%, and it's just that just is in my head, but I need
yeah.
to see it increase quickly through a fast charger or anything like that.
Mm,
So maybe that would go away, but that was the takeaway. But in terms of the driving experience, it just makes so much more sense. They're so much faster, so much smoother, and it's just easy, isn't it? It's just something
it
like
is.
driving wise makes no sense.
It is.
Um,
I think the fun thing that you talked about there was really important is like when we get the cars from the press office, we aren't given a wall box. So if we charge the cars at home, we have to charge them with like a what is it, a 1.5 kilowatt like
Granny
plug-in
charger, I
power.
think they're
Yeah,
called, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
laptop charger. Like, it's
yeah,
not very
yeah.
powerful at all. So that's probably not the best experience at home. But you're right. If you know where your fast chargers are, or if you have a wall box at home or at work or something like, it's pretty easy. It's like having a laptop,
Yeah, I
really.
just didn't have that chance. Look, I'm the perfect test case because I haven't driven a car that's electric for 10 years, which is obviously what we spoke about. And yeah, driving wise, it's a no-brainer. Cost wise, the ongoing costs are better, I think, if you charge at home and do it in the right way. I've done some research around this, which we'll touch on in a second. But yeah, it's just that I need to drive 300 k's tomorrow, and I need to plan my route better. I just haven't had a chance to do that or get over that.
Yeah,
But that was the takeaway afterwards. Was kind of like, oh no, I need my car charged up, and it's going to take me 3 days to charge the thing. So it's
yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. And like, so we had the EV5, or I had the EV5 here in Adelaide for a week, and I took it cross country. I did over 670 k's in it, and I used the fast chargers twice. One was at the shops, while I was literally doing my weekly shop for 30 minutes, and I got like 200 Ks charged back. The other one was on the way back from the Riverland because we ended up staying longer in the Riverland than we needed to, so the charging plan didn't go quite the
Yeah,
plan.
totally. And look, I just that was my experience. It wasn't.
Mm,
I'm not even. I don't even think necessarily it was right or wrong. I think it was more that's just what happened, and in
yeah,
the use case that I had, yeah, I just had that. It was almost like a little bit extra thing to think about. So I can't
yeah,
just go to the petrol station and have 700-800 Ks. I have to. All right, where's the fast charger? I don't know where it is. I've only got 30%. I've only got this granny charger at home, and it was just that extra little bit to think about. That was my experience, but there are things to fix that,
So why don't we
which I think
jump
we
in
can
then,
do as
like thinking
well.
about owning one, and if you were going to exchange your daily driver. And I'm fully of the belief that there will always be a place for petrol cars in the automotive space. You just might end up like our antique cars now, where if you want to run that car, this is not anytime soon, maybe the next 20, 30 years. If you want to run that performance petrol car, then maybe there's a premium to that. That said you did some research around the cost of having one at home and actually doing it. So
Yeah,
let's
look,
just jump
nothing
straight in.
crazy. I just literally took my use case and thought, okay, well, look, what would I spend on a car, and what could I comparatively get for that price if it's an EV over a ICE vehicle? And I think you're bang on, Lee. I think that's the people don't think about that. They think, oh, petrol cars will go away. I think the electric car will do to the petrol car what the car did to the horse. That's the analogy I always use, is that,
Yeah,
you go
yeah,
racing
yeah.
events, you can go and run around the countryside in a horse, but it's still not going to deliver your mail tomorrow, right? It's the same. It makes it more of a hobby rather than
Yeah.
anything else.
Oh god,
That's
can you
sort of where I
imagine that?
went
We've
with
got
that.
horse people and then we have car people and then it's seeing the same thing. Oh no.
That's it. Well, that's it. I think that's a good analogy to draw from
Yeah.
there as well. But look, what I looked at is because my extra, it's not a fun car, right? It's a daily. So, but that's the sort of class of car that I wanted, and that's when I was looking at what I could buy for similar sort of money to what I've got now, and it's you the reality is you can't. So the two options that I thought about was, look, we could go for something like the EV5, which is the same class, that mid to large size SUV. They're $75,000-$75,000. So for me, that's just out. I'm not going to spend that much money. You can then go down to the 55 if you want base spec model. But then I thought, look, I don't even want to spend 50 grand on an electric car because the depreciation is such an unknown and you're just going to lose so much money in that time. So I thought, okay, if me, Ollie, is going to consider buying an electric car, it has to be on one of the cheapest ones that you can get. And the two that I found were this isn't where I said, yes, this is what I'd buy, but this is where the pricing ended up. Is I looked at the BYD Atto 1, which is the cheapest electric car in Australia, if you can call it a car, because
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm glad you did.
but it's 24 grand plus on roads,
Is that
massive
how cheap
value.
it is now?
Yeah, they're
Jeez.
like that's a lot of, like, for an electric car.
That's cheaper
That's
than
the
a
cheapest one.
Yaris.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely. I didn't actually consider that. So that's really interesting. So
Wow.
24
Okay.
grand plus on roads, 2020, and it claimed 220 kilometers of range. So let's assume it's somewhere between 180 and 200,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
but I think that's probably fair. To get around town and do what you want to do, maybe that's okay. And maybe I could get away with that car, but it's not really the same thing. And I think in 3 years, if you look at how I mean, they're nice-ish, sort of, but
Are they?
I don't know.
I mean,
Well, I'm trying
are
to be
Rory's
kind.
shopping carts nice? Like,
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. But look, it's a cheap car, right? It
Yeah.
is you get what you pay for in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. It's slow. The aircon apparently doesn't actually cool you down, which is okay. That's in
That's
Brisbane.
problematic for business.
That doesn't work. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's 24 grand plus on roads. We'll call it 26 drive away. It get you around and it's a car,
Mm.
right? That's about it. It's probably going to be worth nothing in 3 years. And I don't say that about all BYDs, but they're not going to be worth anything in 3 years. It's a shoe. It's not a car,
I
really,
mean,
is it? So
yeah. Even entry level like Rios, which are really quite cheap, they don't really hold their value either. So I think if you're gonna go cheap car, you're not going because it's gonna be worth the same price in 5 years. I think you're probably going for the what it costs you right now sort of scenario.
Maybe, but if you use your example and you bought the Yaris, it might be $5,000 more, but what's going to hold its value better, the
Grand more
Yaris or
probably.
the
Or
yeah,
yours.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. That is a consideration anyway. And then I went, okay, well, look, I actually summarized the top cheapest 10 cars thanks to AI, and I just went, what would I actually drive out of that list? And look, we sound like Kia fanboys at the moment. The only real option was the EV3, which was, and that's 47K drive away, so it's about 44 plus on roads
Well, that's a good
for
price.
the entry level model. And then I thought, okay, well, let me compare that against potentially something I would buy, which is a same level X Trail or a new one, 41 grand. There's a 7K difference. I can kind of go, all right, well, there's a justification there, but you're getting a class of car down in size with the Kia EV3 to the X Trail.
That's true. Yeah.
I think you'd get that $6,000 back in costs over the 5 years. So when I drew comparisons to this 5 years ago when I bought my car, it was 15 grand the difference between any EV and the X Trail. It didn't really matter what it was at that point. That was a different time. So I could just never justify the cost increase. But now I would look at an EV3. I don't know that I'd buy one, but it's on the radar. Anyway, but that's my thought process and where we went for that. So
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think and I'm with you on the boring car train, right? I'm definitely at a point in my life where I like having a daily driving, easygoing car that I can throw the dog in, not care that much about. And as far as if it gets dirty, it gets dirty. I don't want it to be destroyed or scratched, but whatever. I'm not showing this car, right?
it just needs to be car.
This needs to be car. It needs to be good
Yeah.
car, and I typically like the performance version of good cars. So if I'm going to buy it for myself, and it's not going to be a work car, work supplied vehicle, then I'm typically going to go for the faster version. I mean, even when I had work supplied cars, I typically would try to order the performance variant or the one that had the all-wheel drive system or one that was a bit spicier somehow. So I quickly just pulled up car sales on the side here on the iPad, and I was like, well, okay, what EVs can you get for 50 grand? If I was going to buy a car for 50 grand, EV wise, what could I get for 50 grand? You can get some demo EV5s. You can get demo BZ4Xs, which is the Toyota thing that no one can remember what it is because it's a horrific name. There's a lot of Model Ys on here. There's a lot of Sherrys and NGs, new NGs. New Aeons. I think I didn't realize they were here already. Aeon. So there's a lot of options there, and there's a Model 3, a 2022 Model 3. So if you're going to go new, yeah, you're right. There's not a lot of options for 50 grand. Very few. And the EV3 is probably one of the better options because I think the same price in Hyundai gets you the Insta, which is tiny. But if you go use a year or two old, there's actually a lot of options.
It does. I didn't look at used just for, to try and keep the conversation somewhat short, because otherwise it's just going to it'll be massive. But it's if you just look at new and look, even with the X Trails, right? I could get one tomorrow for mid-30s, and that would be a new car. But I could ring them and say, hey, and just shop them against each other, and you can save five grand easy. But I just looked at pure retail price, and that's where I ended up. But the point, I think, the overall point I would like people to take away is that gap is shrinking in terms of, does it make sense or not? That's because that's what I realized is that if before it was 15 grand and you were buying it so you could drive around and say you drove in an EV and were saving the environment, but you kind of go, maybe I would buy the EV because it just saves me money for a start. That's where the incentives need to be for people to buy it. And they drive nice around town. They genuinely do. But they're washing machines. It's a tool. We're going from a car, which I love, and they're all different, and you've got different engine configurations. You've got all this. It's just a washing machine, a computer, a laptop to get you around, which is, it's a different thing. And I think I'll take that ethos like I do with my motorbikes, which is I always have one motorbike that I don't touch, and it goes to the dealer and they sort it all out, and it's usually a new one. And then my second one is my one that I'll muck around with, because it will always be in pieces. And if I only have one, I'm never going to be able to ride it, because it's always going to be in pieces and I'm never going to ride it.
Yeah,
So
fair.
have that
Yeah.
fun car, and the that's it.
Yeah.
That's sort of the ethos
'Cause
there. But anyway, we jumped straight into quite a
Well, I think
deep
it's
topic
good. I think
there,
people are
Lee. But
curious
what?
of this, and I know you're right. It's an interesting point of view as well, because you also said, I think in the review, that you typically prefer to buy your cars outright, or at least majority outright. So, and then that's one way of looking at it. What's the total cost of ownership? I'm gonna have to spend 50 grand this thing, and then I'm gonna have to put fuel in it, or electricity in it, and tires and brakes, and yada yada yada. And then there's the other point of view, which is kind of the kind of camp that I said, is that my daily driver is typically leased or financed. And so my budget, if you will, is kind of looked at from the monthly or fortnightly or weekly perspective, instead of like, this whole car is just mine. So for me, if I'm going to spend 50 grand on an EV and it's going to be a new one, I'm probably going to splurge a little bit for more car, because my weekly is not going to change a whole lot. Like,
And you bang on. And look, I'm very understanding that I am odd, and that in today's modern world, is that even my phone, I will buy the phone outright. I hate paying for things weekly. I hate paying for a monthly. I just, give me it, I'll pay for it, and it's done. And look, that means I don't buy new stuff very often, and it's a very considered purchase, because I'll look at that total cost value
10
over
years
time.
since your last EV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Experience I even drove or owned.
Oh, crazy. But it was really good, actually. It was really good. And they've come a long way, even since the Tesla I drove. I did a trip from London to Edinburgh Airport and back for YouTube, which is pretty crazy. We did it in one go. And yeah, it was tiring, but it was fun. It was good fun. So, but they've come a long way since then.
Kind of
And
such a long way. And I think that's for the future of the car. I think we're pretty much we're saying the same thing. I think that's what's going to have to happen. The future of the car is your daily driver. The 9 times out of 10 people buy cars for A and B utility, and then X plus XYZ features, and they need so many seats because of people. Those are the reasons why people buy cars. Once the range gets beyond what is considered, normal range, because you could buy an EV product now that has more range on a charge than my Fiesta does on a tank of gas. So it's just a small change in your lifestyle. So your daily is going to be your EV or your plug-in hybrid, which I actually prefer at the moment anyway. And then your play toy, your second bike, is going to be your Fiesta STs, your sports car that you've bought from time ago, or you've splurged on, whatever, that just sits in the garage and is your plaything. And I think that makes sense.
And that's a good piece of buyer's advice too, is I think if you buy something somewhat cool or classic, and you don't, keep it semi-low mileage. I'm always an advocate for using cars. That's because I don't like them when they're just sat in a box forever.
I don't like it either.
I don't think no. I don't think you can lose. I really don't think you can lose, because I think they're going to be collectible in the future, because they're not going to make them again. And that's coming through when you look at things like the Rivolto. No one's really, the values are plummeting in them, because they've got that hybrid system, because no one wants that. They want a big angry V12 if you're buying a Lamborghini, right?
It's true.
And look at Murcielagos. Like they're $1 million now.
Well, they're already going up in value. I mean, it's if you want to buy a car for investment right now, it's going to be a plaything, not a car that you drive every day, because none of these cars I'm about to tell you to buy are going to be good cars to drive every day. You want something, in my opinion, and I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just looking at what the market is available at the moment. So you're looking at, like V8 Vantage or V12 Vantage, if you can find one. That's a gold mine. Manual R8s, manual Jaguars, the supercharged F-types, stuff that's not going to be made anymore because they were the last of the era. E90 series M3s, M4,
they're a
M3s,
great buy right now. If you can buy an E90 M4 or an M3, yeah, that's the V8 one. Just for anyone that doesn't know your BMW model codes, they're no brainer. They're actually still cheap. I don't think they're going to go like that. They are going to go like that.
I mean, we just saw the E46 do that like the last 3 or 4 years. I was like, oh, maybe when it comes time to buy a track car, I'll look at E46, because they were hovering around 40, 50 grand. And then just in the last 12, or I guess 2-3 years now, they've just exploded, even for the SMG models, which are a pain in the ass. And I'm like, there's no way. Beautiful car, but like,
Can
there's
I
no
just say,
25-year-old BMW.
E46 M3, not the best one. If you put an E46 and an E90
Oh
on the
no, we're
table,
gonna have this argument.
but to drive, like, on paper, even just on paper, what do you want? A V8, high revving V8 that goes to 9,000 RPM, or a six-cylinder 3 liter? Well, it's not the same thing, even, is it? It's really not even the same thing.
Oh, I've had the curse of driving all the non-turbo in cars. So I've driven Z3Ms, E36 M3s, E46 M3s, quite hard the E46. I have an interesting story about that one that my mother shouldn't listen to. So mom, if you're listening now, run. E90s, and that's kind of the last time I drove the full breadth of M3. And my soul, my whole being loves the noise that 4-liter makes. There's only one other engine on this planet that sounds better than the 4-liter BMW engine. I cannot remember the model code of that V8 right now, but that it just sings and it's gorgeous. But it's too big. Like, I would still have an E90 M3 sedan over probably an E46 for the engine. But if I'm going to track it, and there's an E46 that it's not going to cost me, a testicle in my firstborn at this point, then I don't know. It'd be hard because it's such a good car, such a good chassis. And that's classic BMW to me, where E90 was like, okay, now we're new BMW. Does that make sense?
No, I know what you mean. There's a big transition, isn't there? But then I think the E90 is the last of the semi-digital BMWs, and then obviously we go to the new one where it's all computerized, turbocharged. They're different things after the E90, and I'm wondering if this is just a time thing, and over time that shifts, and we might be saying the same thing about the M3 and M4 six-cylinder turbo in 5 years' time. I don't know.
Right. I don't like modern M peaked for me at F80 series M2 CS. We had one on the channel in 2021, and I did not want to give that car back. I adored it with every part of my being. It tried to kill me on multiple occasions, driving around on Cut 2s in a wet and cold Melbourne. That's peak M for me. And so every car I've driven that has an M badge since is judged against that car. And I think you've got an interesting point. I think we're going to see electrification as a starting point of this conversation. I think we're going to see interesting change, because you've got the M5 now that's plug-in hybrid, which we haven't driven yet, but by all accounts is a incredible machine, but then has the weight of like 6 refrigerators to deal with. And you've got then the current G series in 3, 4, 2s that are excellent, but are not in this. They don't feel like the E46 or the E90 at all. Like they're a completely different kind of car. They're completely more digital. You've got brake systems that are different, steering systems that are different. That stupid steering wheel that's the size of this bloody glass. Like, I love M, but I'm hoping that the electrification is used to make them just as engaging as they used to be. And that's probably the worry I think we have as enthusiasts.
Just makes them too fast. I mean that. Which is, as an enthusiast, we were talking about this last podcast.
Yeah,
it's that because they just are just insane. Even that EV5, the way that thing goes, it's nuts. I wish we'd recorded Lucy's reaction, because she instantly said she feels sick and couldn't concentrate and was terrified after I just sped up down the road. And I think that's because we saw it. They tried it with the E63 or the C63, where they put the 2-liter turbo in and the electrification of the drivetrain or whatever. but I feel like they just lose their soul a little bit because they're all very similar, and they're just,
Yeah.
it's a 4-cylinder C63. Well, 63 should be a 6.2 in my head, but I know they did the 4-liter V8, and that was pretty cool too. But look, I don't know, and maybe, like you said, maybe it's just we're looking at the modern stuff and going, oh, okay, that's modern. It's not as good as what it was before, but on paper it is better, right? So they're faster, they're more economical. Yes, they're heavier, but they lose their soul. And we look back at that E46 or even the E90s creeping into this now as well, and you go, they're just so much more charismatic cars and engines. So maybe that's what it is. But
I agree with that. And then, yeah, I think there's some brands that do the electrification thing really well and are playing with that engagement piece. Like you see Ioniq in doing it. You've got Porsche and McLaren have both proven the tech can be used effectively. BMW with the M5 is using the tech effectively, but again, soul. Like what?
But we had it.
What are we missing?
Do you remember before? Again, that E90 is the cutoff, right? Before then, Mercedes, only Audi were doing it. It was turbos, right? It was all naturally aspirated before that. So you look at the big three.
True.
So you had the E46 and the E90, BMWs, and then with Mercedes, all C-Class, they put a supercharger on some of them on the E-Class. I think they're the E55 with the supercharger on.
E55.
But you had the 6.2. They're all big, forced induction. Now they go smaller capacity turbos, and everyone's going, no, it's not as pure. Even with the M5, do you remember they went from the V10 to the smaller motor with the twin turbos,
4-liter, yeah.
and then now they go in electrification, and we're saying the same thing again. So maybe it's just going to take some time. Anyway. We'll see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah, I think this could be interesting. Equate to like steering systems. So when E90 came out, its biggest gripe from in purist was its steering, as we went from a hydraulic wrap to electronic wrap, and that still is a contingent point amongst enthusiasts. And but now a lot of electric racks have gotten really good. That you're able. I have electric power steering in my Fiesta ST. That's one of the best steering hot hatches of its era, and still is. We've driven a multitude of hot hatches with electronic steering assist, and it's getting better. Is it as good as an old hydraulic unit? No, but you can get that communication feel. So I'm praying to the automotive gods that the hybrid systems and EV systems will come to a point where they demand more of us as drivers, so that we can actually have a bit more of a relationship with the car.
Yeah, so no one's done this yet. We've just
not doing it yet.
No one. I would love to see a manual gearbox on an EV, and I know Ioniq N is probably the nearest thing, but and some sort of just a 6-speed manual with an EV. I'm sure it can be done. I know there's obviously technical limitations or whatever with that, but if you can do that, that might be the way to appease us enthusiasts. But the reality is, again, is us enthusiasts, we're a small percentage of the market. Most people want the washing machine
like
to drive to and from the shops, right? So it's why you're going to spend trillions of dollars on that. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's the brands who spend the money on the washing machines that allows them to afford to make.
And do you know what? This is a really good segue into one of my news topics that I wanted to bring to your attention. And
let's go.
It's Nissan. So you might fall asleep here because this is the sort of thing I'm really interested in. But I've literally written one line on this, and it's Nissan's profitability, right? I didn't realize how low this was. 0.5%. 0.5% is how much money Nissan has made in terms of their profit over the last financial year.
I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was that bad.
But could you imagine the amount of effort that they've put in to build all those cars, pay all those people, do all that design work, everything? I mean, they lost money, so it's actually a win for them because they've gone the right way. But what? 0.5%, that's nothing. You can't run a business on that? You spend all those billions of dollars and you make 10 quid or $50. So that wasn't Nissan Australia, by the way. That is Nissan Global.
Yeah.
They made 0.5%. So that's the difference between one model doing well in probably one market. So if they make a bad decision on coming somewhere like Australia and they don't sell enough cars, they're actually not profitable as a business. Look, it just blew my mind. And I've worked OEM side, and so have you, that companies are working to that fine of a margin. That is absolutely crazy to me. You know, that's nuts. It's a lot of work.
Then the flip of that is that you've got the Chinese brands coming in with an interesting take, because we've been told as a global market that cheap means less features and same quality. But the Chinese market has flipped that around and gone, actually, cheap means same features, just no armrest.
Well, the Chinese market is more around tech. Like that's how they develop things, right? Well, they redevelop, shall we say? Not that's technology that's been created already, and then it's about more technology.
Allegedly.
Yeah, everything's allegedly. I know nothing. So that's that's true as well. So, but yeah, that was absolutely insane in terms of. That finer margin is crazy. I run a business and I couldn't imagine working to a 0.5% margin. Like, that just makes no sense to me at all.
And that size of a business, I wonder they're like scrambling. You know, they're trying their best.
So that was that. And in terms of news, that's pretty much it, other than an extended EV conversation and Nissan, a 0.5% profit. That was it. So I think you had some news, Lee, right? What do you want to talk about?
I do. And I have one for you, because I know, as the resident Brit, you have some attachments to the British brands. At least you should. What do you think that is called? What do you think that is called? Unless you've looked at the notes.
I'm looking. I've stopped reading them. I haven't actually read it. So, is there a specific word?
No, I mean, sorry. What brand is that car on the screen? So for those who are listening, we've got a camouflage car up on the screen.
Oh, that's a Jaguar. It's a new Jaguar. Yeah.
Do you know what they've called it?
Oh, no. I don't know. No.
Type 01. Type 01 or Type 1. I'm not sure if they're going 01 or not 1, because the British, but it's Type 01.
I could actually give you some insight to that. So I used to work for Aston after the Ford split. Interestingly, Aston Martin used to designate their prototypes very similarly to that as well. So they'd call it 001. But I'm guessing they're changing it. This is real nerdy stuff now. So you've got like S-type, for example, or an X-type, XJ, whatever. Now it sounds like they're swapping it around, going Type 01. So they're just moving where that type. That is a complete guess, and I haven't looked at that. But
that's 100% right. So, because Jaguar's press release is like, we're going into the new world, because you know how well the brand or rebranding went last year or year before, and full flat in his face. And this is the Type 01. I have to admit, my first thought when I read this today was, that is diabetes. As Type 1 diabetes. I was like, oh my God, I thought we were trying to get rid of the old X-Type, XJ owner vibe, and you've named the car a type of diabetes. Like, what are we doing, Jaguar?
And they're guaranteed to come out with a Type 002 and a 003 as well. So.
And like, it's a Type 0, because the 0 means we have no tailpipe emissions, because it's an EV or electrified, all this other stuff. And then Type 1 is the first of its kind. I'm like, okay, logically it makes sense. But for those of us in the room who just read the headline, it didn't read the whole thing to start with, immediately thought diabetes. The commercial from, the 80s, 90s, or the 90s and 2000s. And I was like, I really want Jag to do well, because I also have a soft spot for JLR, having worked in a dealer and an importer for a while. But I'm like, they're really not helping themselves out here.
Yeah, I mean, look, that brand. I was really confused by that rebrand. Again, I work in marketing, so it was, and I work for OEM.
We were all completely lost.
Yeah, and yeah, they got that wrong, and I think that's very obvious and clear. I actually
Mm,
really, take all the other brand nonsense out that they tried to do and whatever else. The car and even the photo that we had up a second ago, I think it looks really cool, and it actually
I
does.
agree.
Yeah, and it looks reminiscent of what a Jaguar should look like. The colors, I think, were quite bold choices in the press ones. I think it was like pinks, like pastel pinks and things like that. So it looks pretty cool. It's just back up on the screen now. So yeah, it looks awesome. Like a nice coupe and awesome.
Watch Batman, the animated series, when you were younger.
Maybe,
Was that a
maybe,
thing
maybe.
for the
Yeah.
UK? So Batman had this really cool looking Batmobile in that series. It had this really gorgeous long bonnet, like a very prominent grille, like wings up the back. And this has given me Batmobile vibes in the right way. Like if they had this in all like matte black and just did the grille in that gorgeous matte silver that I know they have, it would look badass.
And then a
But
supercharged V8.
yeah, well, like a jet fighter engine out the back, you know. This is the type of 999 because that's how much emissions we've got at this point. And it will cure your diabetes.
But no, the whole. I don't know if they can recover from what they did last year, and I'm
I
really
don't know
interested to
either.
see what happens next because you've got to do a U-turn on that. I mean, like the whole thing that confused me, right, is they've got such a brand equity with, and I get it, it's the whole old man association with, and but when you're coming out with this new brand, you could have just focused it as a slightly younger buyer, and they tried to do it a few years ago with the Villain. Do you remember the Villain advert that they
Yeah,
had?
all the F type and E type stuff they did with the
Yeah,
villain.
that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that was perfect.
that was
Like keep it as
great.
like a
Yeah.
bad car, and that fits their brand really
Mm.
well. You could have launched that same car and done the same thing, and then start a new brand. You don't need to using the brand equity for Jaguar to create this new woke thing. Just didn't make sense. I was so confused by that, and even
Yeah.
when they did it, the advert had nothing to do with cars. I remember showing it to people and going, "What's this?" And then they all went, "Oh, I don't know." So just like, what are we doing? Oh,
Yeah, I was really unimpressed. But then, they really nailed Defender. They nailed it
yeah,
perfectly.
that's Land Rover, right? So that's
Yeah. Well, they
the
split them up. They've got Land Rover, Defender, and Range Rover as separate pillars now. They don't even like referring to them as a Land Rover Defender. And it's like they did that the right way, it feels like.
yeah, no, and they didn't really take. Oh god, this is going to be real car journo speak now. It was evolution, not revolution, right? With the Defender, I
Mm,
think, and it was cool. It had some reminiscent design from the old Defender too, and they're really cool cars. But it's and it's just the utilitarian version of the Range Rover, which is what it should be. They nailed it. You're right. They did a really good job. And the Range Rovers, even the 405s, I've driven a couple of those. They're wicked. And we saw actually the one the other week, the newest one. I can't remember what it's called. That was amazing too. They look really cool.
yeah, the
But yeah,
autobiography edition SV with the sensory floor thing,
oh, the
which I did
twenty-two
look
thousand
up.
dollar thing, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I did look it up, and that car's base price was just under half a mil. And I was like,
Just
I am in the
no.
wrong business.
Yeah. All that for 0.5%.
Yeah, if you're Nissan, yeah. Well, since we're on prestige brands, and there's been some other prototypes shown off as of recently, and if you think of what would be Jaguar and even Aston Martin's kind of niche rival in Europe, you reckon?
UK brand or
Nope, any brand now, but like their niche rival.
for Jaguar or Aston?
There could be an overlap for both of them.
Mercedes is where my knee jerk goes, but yeah,
Niche.
yeah, that's what threw me off a little
Mm,
bit. Oh, I don't know,
uh,
Alpina, something like that.
that's pretty close. Maserati.
Ah, okay, yeah, yeah.
So I had the pleasure of driving a Grecale GTS. GTS? Yeah, the high performance one with the twin turbo
I hope that's a
Tuno engine.
prototype paint job.
That's the prototype paint job because they're
Thank,
giving the facelift.
goodness for that.
The Grecale is going to get an update. I personally think this is the most underrated performance SUV on the market right now. Trofeo, that's what it's called. Trofeo, because the GTS name was the old name.
What
So
is
the
it? An
Grecale,
Alpha underneath? Same platform as the Alpha?
same platform as the Stelvio.
Yeah.
It uses the Nettuno V6, the twin turbo one, not the Ferrari derived V6 like in the QV, the
It's not
Quattrofoglio.
Ferrari engine. They claim they're very, very, I would believe them on that as well, those Italians. It's not a V8 with the front two chopped off. It's not
No.
not a Ferrari V8.
It's a different type of a wine, and that would be very much what the hint to. And I had the pleasure of driving the Trofeo for a client a couple months ago, and it is bloody good. Like, it is so good. I would rather have a Trofeo over Macan, and that is a big thing to say because I love Porsche.
Yeah, that is for you. That's high praise.
It's huge.
Do they sell these? They sell these in Australia?
They do. Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen a Maserati in Australia.
They're rare. They are very rare. That's why I love them, because they're not as common, and they're going to have the Italianisms. It definitely had some Italianisms, but the Grecale is a good car to begin with. I think it's a very good platform. It's well priced because they're trying their best to stay alive in this terrible market of Australia at the moment. But the Trofeo is, even if you just get a chance to drive one for an afternoon, an excellent SUV. They don't sell very well, but I do think that Maserati is a bit of an unsung hero in the performance side, because that Trofeo Grecale is like excellence on wheels.
Well, in England, you can get I forget what they're called. It might be a Gran Turismo, but it's not. It's a two-door. Are they two doors?
The Gran Turismo two-door, yeah.
Yeah, like 2005-ish, with the lights, the sort of thin lights, like look like little worms that go around
yes,
the edge.
yes. Yep.
You can get one of those for very cheap in England, but just be warned, the buying price is not the price. It's the running costs of that will be
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will be
that is the Italian fee. Is you buy the beautiful thing, but then you have to maintain the beautiful thing with all the other beautiful parts that the beautiful thing needs. And
I just know that there's one part on the intake for that, and it's just a very standard butterfly valve for the intake. It's something crazy, £5,000 or something like that, and you have to buy the OEM one. So it's just the price of, you could buy the car for $5,000 and then be in for a $5,000 bill the next week. Like, it's just nuts. It's nuts.
So, but yeah, a quick sidebar on that. Another, since we're talking about random Italians, I used to work in New Zealand. When I first moved to New Zealand, before I went to an OEM, I worked for an Italian car shop, Lancia, Alfa, Fiat, etc., etc. You remember the old CELA speed gearboxes, the robotized manuals that were really problematic for many years?
In the Maseratis?
In the Maseratis, in the Fiats, in the Alfa Romeos, that sort of thing. So they all used a system called CELA speed, and they were just terrors. But they all have to use a hydraulic accumulator. It's like a big, chunky piece of metal that's basically designed to hold pressurized hydraulic fluid so the robot can do its thing. Take a guess at the car that shared that part with every Alfa or Fiat product that had a 6-speed CELA speed unit. Any F1 gearbox Ferrari had to have an accumulator, and it was the same part for every single one. So we used to have the Ferrari dealer in Christchurch, and the Ferrari dealer in Auckland, and the Ferrari dealer in Sydney and Melbourne call us up, because we would refurbish them and order an accumulator, and we'd go to the back where there was a wrecked 156 or 147 or 156 and get the accumulator off the car and then ship it off to the Ferrari dealer, who I'm sure then sold it for some obnoxious markup.
Well, do you know what? It's really interesting we're talking about this, because I don't know if you watch Matt Armstrong. He's rebuilding a Veyron at the moment, and he's having some issues with the accumulators. So and I actually watched it yesterday, so it just made me think about, same deal. It's like got these accumulators. In the Veyron. So that's why I thought, maybe that would be a lucky guess with that. But
very close.
Yeah, it must be the similar technology, but just a different way of doing it.
That's a whole nerdy conversation with a whiteboard to explain how that thing works.
That sounds like it. But Bugatti won't sell the parts for, because he basically, if nobody knows, Matt Armstrong effectively buys crash damage cards and then repairs them himself, which is a really cool thing. And most brands are okay with selling you parts. Bugatti have been very difficult with Matt in selling him parts to repair. He's repairing a Chiron and a Veyron at the same time. Wild. So you need to watch those videos. Check them out on YouTube.
Yeah,
They're
it's a lot of money.
really, really cool. It's a lot of money, and it's just really cool to see how these things pull apart. And he hasn't been able to buy certain parts, which for me is a massive opportunity for Bugatti. They've missed a huge opportunity to work with a builder and try and support them. Maybe say very hands off, just to be like, hey, from a safety perspective, we don't want, we don't say no. There's no, sign an indemnity form, whatever we need to do. Say, hey, you can repair it. Here are the parts, but we're not held responsible if something breaks. Like, that's nothing to do with us. But anyway,
sorry, I just had a note from Borko here. Chat has said that the accumulators are Volkswagen Scirocco equivalent parts.
There you go. Yeah. So, but that's
surprise.
And it's the same deal with Mercedes. A lot of Mercedes parts go on Aston Martins or Volkswagen parts on all the way through. You get from a Volkswagen Polo up to a Bugatti Veyron, there's a lot of shared parts. That's how they save money in development, right? So it's if you can, that's a good money saving tip. If you have a car for one of those brands, whether it's like Fiat Group, which is Chrysler and all the rest of it, make sure you try and cross-reference the parts. Yes, Stellantis, and try and cross-reference the parts to find the cheapest version of it, because you're probably buying the same thing. But there's not many Maserati owners that are doing work on their own cars. Though, but
but if you're a glutton for punishment like we are, and you buy a used Italian car, then it's definitely worth. That opened my eyes to Italian cars, and I love them. But they do tend to try to kill me, or at least kill my pocketbook. That's definitely a great tip. And it's actually a lovely segue to our last piece of news, which was shared platforms and Subaru's new EV. Now, Subi's gone a bit nuts lately with their EV releases, and it's this. Have you seen this?
No, that looks exactly like the Toyota BR4
the BZ4XK,
whatever it's called. Yeah.
So it's pretty much it's called the Subaru Uncharted, which is the correct way to name a car, even though I'm not a massive fan of the name. I'll give you some specs. All right. It's going to be around 60K.
Cybertruck there.
It's a little bit Cybertrucky there. I like this a lot. And I like this a lot. So I will go to I don't like that interior, but I like the car design a lot. So it'd be around 60K with the only option being a pano roof, which I think is probably a good way to do it. It'll have about 522 kilometers of range WLTP. So you're looking at around 470 to 500, which is pretty good. All-wheel drive. All right. 252 kilowatts, so 337 horsepower. This thing's going to fly. 5 seconds or less.
Quicker than the EV5.
Yes.
It's quicker than the EV5, yeah.
They say 5 seconds to 100, which is pretty damn fast. And it's not even wearing an STI badge. Now, we do see this exact platform on those Toyotas. And I looked at it before, and you cannot get all-wheel drive on the version of the Toyota. So if you want the all-wheel drive and the performance, at the moment, the only option is going to be the Subi, which I think is a smart move. What excites me about this from Subaru is that we've been sitting around for the last 5-10 years, and Subaru's not done much besides BRZ. Where the STI or the WRX has existed, but that same platform's existed for a while. If you've driven a recent one or been in a recent one, it just kind of looks the same. And it doesn't really show anything new. There's no been real reason to go look at Subaru lately. Unless you want a reliable daily driver. And if I was going to buy a daily driver, Subi would be high on my list.
Forester's a good proposition, especially the hybrid version. Yeah.
As a gay man, I do think I'm a little bit lesbian, and I love an Outback. I love an Outback. I'll go ahead and admit it. And
okay, I don't mind those. Yeah.
And I think the Trail Seeker that was released a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago at the Melbourne Motor Show, was a cool electric version of the Outback. And this gives me some hope that we might see some more STI things again, besides just some dress-up parts, But this is a lot of power pumped into this platform that Toyota
Oh, it's
typically doesn't do. So it's cool to see someone be like, you know what, we want the all-wheel drive one, and we're going to go this fast. It's like, what else is coming? Is what
Do you
comes
know
to my
what? I'll
mind.
tell you what, on that same line, not just STI, do you remember the company called ProDrive?
Yeah, they're now Prim
So
car.
that, sorry, are they Premcar, yeah?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, because in England, I used to drive past their headquarters on the A1, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
the M1, and just be like, oh, I really want to go and have a look in that factory. Every time I
It's
used to drive
gorgeous.
past it. And do you remember that ProDrive prototype? It was on Top Gear probably 20 years ago.
The all-wheel drive but mid-engine thing that was really cool.
I don't know if it was mid-engine, but it was like silver.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
had the proper four-wheel drive with the funky diffs on
Variable
it. They had a
diff. Yeah,
little,
yeah.
yeah, twiddly knob for diffs. And anyway, I'd love to see them take some sort of, some one of these cars and do what pro drive it basically compared to
Ooh,
what they did there. Can you do that with an EV? Like you could do that with you can fix your interior, because I know ProDrive did some work with JLR and they did some interiors for Range Rovers. Could they do a bit of that and make zhuzh up the motors a bit,
I
give us
think you
500
can.
horsepower?
So I think you can, and because we're moving into what we call in industry software-defined vehicles. So we'll use this Uncharted as an example. The Uncharted and the DZ4 thing that Toyota have share a platform. Batteries and the motors are exactly the same. If you put the front-wheel drive version, for example, what makes them different is how you program them. So Subaru can say, we want the throttle response or the suspension, if it's a adaptive suspension, for example, or the steering system to react a certain way and feel a certain way, and they'll go make changes. So what has been proven to be able to be done, and this does happen in the States with like Teslas and stuff like that, where people drag race them, you can unlock them, get into the computer systems and really pump up how much power goes from the battery to the motor within a certain amount of time, or how much the motor responds or doesn't respond. What you move your foot an inch, what happens to the rest of the car? We kind of felt that with the EV5. There was a big difference in its response between like normal mode and sport mode. And I think I think we can do that. And I think that's maybe going back to our conversation earlier in the podcast. That's where that enthusiast and engagement factor is someone going in and going, we're going to take this thing that's a little bit of a washing machine and we're going to program it to respond certain ways to certain inputs that we know enthusiasts might give it. And that could create a more engaging machine. And I think we saw that like the Ioniq 5N. But I do think there is a place for someone like ProDrive or STI or someone else to go in and go, we're going to unlock this and we're going to have a play and then we're going to warranty it.
That would be good to see. But again, even if they wanted to do it themselves, that would be fantastic. I'd like to just see Subaru do an STI version, exactly like you've said. I think we're on the same page with that. But you don't get these aftermarket tuning companies because it's way easier to get 500 horsepower because you just turn the motors up, right? Or you put a bigger battery. I know it's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of engineering considerations and all the rest of it, but it's in theory you can put 125 horsepower on each wheel quite easily. That's not difficult now. And then you've got a 500 horsepower car.
Yeah. Without going down the rabbit hole here, I think the interesting part will be, because all-wheel drive is such an important piece of high-power cars, is how we go about programming that. And it's little things like that that I think we could, I say we, as if I'm still working for a brand. But I think the industry could do stuff like that, and it'd be really cool. I agree with you. I think it'd be really cool if we could, even if it was aftermarket, just someone to get a program, because we can update all-wheel drive systems now. People flash M3s with CS tunes. Right? Why can't someone do that for EVs?
Maybe that's a business idea. Someone out there
Let's
do
chat
that.
about it.
Someone out there do it. Okay, cool. Is that all the news?
That's all the news I had. I won't bore you with any more EVs.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, I have a question for you
Oh no.
slash game. It's not really, I don't know if it's a game, it's just a question, right? So what it is what is the worst financial decision that you have made on a car? Now that could be a modification, it could be the car that you've bought.
Mm.
What was it? If you need time to think about it, I can go first. If not, I'll let you go first.
Oh no, because I've had so many. I've had 16 cars. Um, yeah, you go first. I did figure out which one's the worst.
Well, mine was actually just through naivety. There's two I've got, right? So one was when I was 17. It was my first ever car, and the registration plate was L409JRO. I remember that even now. And I had that car for about 6 months, and the engine blew up. I don't know, something catastrophic happened in the bottom end. It was a Mark III Fiesta, and I think it was the bottom end went. So I drove it for about 3 days, and it was so tappety you would not believe. And then I managed to get it to a scrapyard, and they put a new engine in it. So I paid £300 for the car, and put a new engine in it. It was £375. It had £1,000 worth of stereo in it. So bearing in mind twice to three times the value of the car. It had subwoofers, everything. I loved that car, right?
You were that guy in the 90s, weren't you?
This was 2007. So
oh,
yeah,
no,
I just
loved late.
I loved music. So yeah, anyway, so we had all that going. I had loads of CDs, everything in there. Put the new engine in it. It didn't make sense to, but I wanted to keep the car because of the stereo. 1 week later, the thing got stolen, got nicked, and just never heard from it again. Gone, never ever saw it again. So I don't know if you can consider that a bad financial decision, but that one hurt. And in England, when you first pass your tests, for any 17-year-olds in England out there, I feel your pain when it comes to insurance. Back then, I was paying £1,800 a year in insurance. So what's that? $3,500, something like that. Now it's probably double that again for the people. It's nuts. Insurance they don't want 17-year-olds driving cars. So.
Yeah, because you insure drivers, you don't insure vehicle risk. Is that right? Is that how it works over there?
You insure driver to a car. So in a lot of instances, you can't actually drive anything else other than the vehicle that you as an individual insured to, which is, again, annoying, but great. When you come here and the car's insured, you can just drive anything. It just makes so much more sense and so much easier. So
that's true.
So yeah, so that was one. Then the second one, this is quite funny. We went to, this was in Australia a few years ago.
Oh no.
I had another business. No, it wasn't the I-30, hilariously. That one's, that didn't even make the top two.
Told you a lot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, don't ask me for advice when you buy cars. I needed a van or a big car because I have a business. I sell some wheels. And I found it was right in COVID, so you just couldn't get a van. I bought a 2006 Toyota Hiace, and it was $15,000. Hail damage, all the rest of it. I drove up to this. So there's a lot of things you can consider when you buy a car. When I got there, you consider what sort of area it is, and you go, oh, okay, whatever. Tick the box. It was a beautiful estate. Then you think to yourself, okay, so what's the person I'm buying this car from like? Massive red flag. So it comes out, and you should never judge a book by its cover. And I didn't, because I bought the car, right? And he was a lovely chap.
You bought the cover.
Yeah. He was a lovely, lovely guy. Came across as a really lovely guy. But he had a look that would raise a few flags to some people. Like, he had tattoos all over his face and all down his back and neck and things. So it's you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And I didn't, because I bought the car. But at the same time, in hindsight, you kind of go, you sort of fit a stereotype of a person that would be like that. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to.
So you bought a van from a bikie.
He was a bikie, and he raced motorbikes for a living. That was his job. So, and he was
he's
successful.
exactly the stereotype.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, but don't judge people on how they look. But anyway, that's how it is. And I bought the car anyway, and it needed about $10,000 spent on it afterwards. I've managed to do most of the work myself, and ended up about $5,000 into it. But yeah, that one hurt.
On a high
Both.
ace.
Oh, the high ace though, because it was in COVID and I bought just as prices were going up still, I actually didn't lose any money on that car, even with all the work I did to it. But it was very close. Any other time in history, I would have been stuffed and lost a hell of a lot of money.
Mm.
So they're probably the two worst financial decisions I made. I just got very lucky with the second one, but the first one was pretty dumb to buy that much stereo and put an engine in a car that worth more than the car. So yeah, what have you got, Lee?
Uh, Again, if my mother's listening to this, you should probably turn it off now. So I bought my first Porsche at 19, no, 20, 19. And that sounds like a brag, but it's not. I paid $1,500 for it. But she's a red flag. And I remember going to have a look at it off Craigslist, no less. And similar to you, it was a bit of a sus scenario. I was like, oh, it's fine. So I'm just trying to get a little trap car together I can work on or play with. All I saw in my head was a Porsche badge. And I was like, yes, I could finally have a Porsche. And so I paid for it. And when I test drove it, the seat wasn't in place. Like the seat wasn't um,
Bolted down?
bolted down. So I literally got to the end of the street, hit the brakes, and got pinned between the steering wheel and the bottom of the
Nice.
car. It spent like 5 minutes to get out from under it. And this is after I had sold my other car to help buy this one. And so this is going to be my only car, like an idiot. Got it. Get to the workshop. The guy's like, oh, I'll fix the seat. So he welds the seat back in place. No big deal. It didn't have an interior. All that was stripped out. It had the dashboard and the seats, but it didn't have any of the carpeting or the insulation.
Race car spec.
Race car
Okay.
spec. That's what I told myself. And it was a 1982 Series 1 944.
Oh, 944. Ha
Mhm.
ha ha.
944. And I
Nice
was
big bills with that.
the transaxle, perfectly balanced little car, and it was all right. I was doing autocross at the time. I thought this would be the perfect autocross car. There's some guys who ran them spec series as well. I was like, great, this is perfect. Drove it back to uni. I was still living on campus at the time. Parked it in the garage immediately, or in the parking lot rather, and immediately just smoke erupted out of it, just everywhere. It was obviously on fire. Freaked out. Like the top of the hill was like the campus emergency unit. They kept flying down, trying to get stuff out. You're not supposed to like pull the hood open right away. So I'm just waiting for it to calm down. Smoke just stops. Okay, so we get the hood open, and nothing. Not even a flame. Nothing there. And I'm like, what the hell's happened? There's not a burn mark anywhere. The steering fluid sits over the header on the 944 and it had cracked. And the steering fluid that Porsche uses is ATF, which is incredibly flammable. And it had dumped its entire contents on the hot headers below and proceeded to smoke out the parking lot. So we dubbed that car Lucy after Lucille Ball for being a trickster and trying to kill me on several occasions. It died going down the freeway at 80 miles an hour when the number 3 cylinder decided to play maracas up and down. And yeah, it was not a good time. And then I got rid of it and had a couple other cars in between. And then maybe 3 or 4 years later, I bought another 944. I had made all sorts of stories to myself about having a good Porsche. But yeah, that was probably the worst one.
Yeah, there's nothing too bad in terms of actual money loss. Like, it's not like I bought a
Well,
GT4 and lost $5 million. That is,
we're talking
it's
about
pretty
money
good.
lost. Cars I've bought and sold. Most of my cars that I've gotten rid of, I've either traded out of or blew up. If we think about cars I've had regularly, all the new cars I've had, I've traded out of. So that wasn't anything too crazy. Probably money loss was probably the Mini Cooper I had. I bought a Mini Cooper during COVID. Well, firstly, I sold my Megane 265 for a good price, and took that money and with another nice big chunk of savings and went and put an order on an M2 competition, an F series, and LCI as well, because I was working for a consultancy at the time. We got a good deal on them, and there wasn't many build slots left. Put the money down Friday, got laid off on Monday. So I didn't get the M2 in the end. So my partner and I, during COVID, both of us were short. We lived off that for a while. Right Lane Review started not long after that happened, actually. And I went and bought a Mini Cooper. Borco might remember this Mini Cooper. I don't know if he does or not. Give me a sign if you do.
He
think
does.
I paid. Yes. I'm so sorry. I think I paid $4.5 for it, and then the top was working fine. It was a convertible S with a JCW pack, and then so I got it pretty cheap. And then the top just quit working, and it stranded me in a downpour in Melbourne. And then I tried to sell it because we had other cars coming, and I put an order in for an I-20. Oh no, what is Forco's typing something? Rubbish truck. Oh, it did get sideswiped by the rubbish truck. Yeah, I had it parked on the street, and the trash truck sideswiped it as well at one point. And I think I sold it for $1,000 in the end, but without the top working. And that was all in a span of like 6 months, because it was just supposed to last me till I got around.
So you bought it for how much, and you sold it for 1,000?
I bought it for, I think, 4,600 in the end.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 46,000.
No.
Okay, so there's still no massive issues. Like, yeah, okay.
Not massive.
That's it. Yeah.
So, it's an obvious strain of like choosing cars that are problematic.
Yeah, that is an affliction I'm aware of.
This, I think, that's probably why this podcast started.
Yeah.
Like, if I have all these wild stories about random problematic vehicles I probably shouldn't be owning in certain terrible parts of my life, I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'm struggling right now. I'll just pick the Alpha. That sounds like a good choice.
Okay. Well, look, there you go. I thought that was a bit of fun anyway. So maybe we'll pick some of those other stories up another time. So we move on to what's happening next and finish up. Just conscious of time.
Absolutely.
For both. So yeah.
So we've got quite a lot of filming coming up. We've got 4 cars in the pipe for Melbourne soon. Ollie's going to come down and join myself and Borco as we're doing some filming. We've got Mini coming with the new JCW. We've got BMW coming. We've got Hyundai, the i30N as well with the update sedan. So that's going to be great. We have a potential to film a becoming classic Porsche and tell its story of how it helped save Porsche. So you can guess on which car that is. And it's not the SUV. So go do your research again. And also going to have some time in Melbourne to catch up with some people who had done stuff with us in the past. So the one of one Yugo that was on the channel a couple years ago has had an update. So we're going to catch up with him as part of the podcast. And we're also going to be doing a slightly different format for the weeks in between. So you guys get to hear us ramble and carry on and banter about cars every other Sunday. And in between, we're going to start showing you a little bit behind the scenes where we spend a lot of time chatting when we're testing cars, and not all of it makes the cut. But there's some interesting conversation and good points made about the cars we're driving. So we'll have one from the EV5 review next week, and the EV5 review since it just came out this past week. So yeah,
exciting stuff. Very exciting.
More chats with other partners potentially, and some more fun things in July, and fingers crossed.
Yeah, and we've got obviously we've done a lot of filming, so it's going to be really exciting to see the Tucson and the EV5 video come out.
Sportage.
So, yes, that. I didn't do that once when we were filming. Not once. So the Kia Sportage and the Kia EV5 we did some filming with, and it would be really good to see those videos when they come out. And
so by the time this podcast comes out, the EV5 should be out. and we'll have the Sportage coming.
Yes, nice. And I mean, look, we've not seen those yet. Obviously, Lee's doing some editing on that, so that's fantastic, and it's going to be great to see that. And I'd love to hear some feedback from
Absolutely.
from the viewers. What do you think of our reviews? What do you want to see? What do you want to see less of? Do we talk too much nonsense? What is it, Joel? All feedback is good feedback.
Well, again, if you guys enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're around. You can throw us a comment. You can send us a message. We're on TikTok and YouTube, soon to be socials as well. Otherwise, stay safe out there. And if your intellect comes on, let us know.